Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine you've got a property, maybe it's your first rental, or perhaps, part of a growing portfolio. You put it out there on the market, and the applications start rolling in. Each one looks like potential income, sure.
Right.
But it's also a person, someone who's going to live in and hopefully pay for your investment.
That's a hope, yeah.
And hidden in those forms, behind the nice summaries, there are potential risks, big ones.
Yeah, definitely not trivial.
We're talking real costs in time, in money, and honestly, just the sheer mental exhaustion, That can happen if you pick the wrong person.
That really is the heart of the matter, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's exactly why we're digging into this stack of sources you sent over.
Yeah.
It's incredibly useful stuff.
Good.
We're doing a deep dive today into, the whole critical process of tenant screening, specifically here in the U.S.
Right.
Our goal, let's cut through all the noise, pull out the absolute essentials, the knowledge, the tools, the really crucial insights from all these different guides and articles. We want to help you, the property owner, find genuinely great renters. The kind who pay rent on time, look after the place, and frankly, make your life easier.
Not harder. Absolutely. Consider this your essential guide, really, drawn straight from this material to building that solid checklist for vetting tenants.
Yeah, we're not just scratching the surface here. We need to get into the details that actually matter.
Okay.
Definitely. So where do we start? I guess right at the beginning. Defining what tenant screening actually is and why it's just so incredibly important.
Makes sense.
Our sources, and we've got a range here, Avail, Single Key, Green Residential, Bay Management Group. They all stress this isn't some casual step you can just gloss over.
No, it's definitely described as a systematic process. It's what, smart landlords and the pros, the property managers use to really assess renters before they get the keys.
Yeah.
Before signing that lease.
Before any commitment.
And the main purpose, it seems pretty consistent across all these sources. It's about gauging eligibility, their responsibility level.
Yeah, their sense of responsibility.
And maybe most critically, how likely are they to actually pay the rent consistently, on time? And will they take care of the property, be good neighbors?
It's basically your first line of defense,
Yeah.
your due diligence, really. And why is it so critical? This is where sources like Green Residential and Bay Management Group, they really hammer this point home. They detail the huge, sometimes devastating consequences of ending up with a bad tenant.
And they're clear. These aren't just minor annoyances. The first, most obvious one, missed rent payments.
Big one.
It's a direct hit to your finances. Painful. Your own bills, mortgage, taxes, insurance, upkeep, they don't stop just because the rent doesn't show up.
Nope, they keep coming.
That lost income just eats straight into your profit, or maybe even worse, into your savings.
But it can get much worse than just missed payments, unfortunately. This can spiral pretty quickly into serious legal headaches.
Oh, yeah.
Several sources mention the risk of lawsuits, sometimes even false discrimination claims from tenants who kind of know how to play the system.
Wow.
The term professional tenants even comes up. These are people, sadly, who are pretty skilled at exploiting landlord-tenant laws, the eviction process.
Yeah.
Basically living places for ages without paying.
So they know the loopholes.
They know the loopholes, the exact steps needed for eviction in your area. And they might file, frivolous counterclaims or just use delaying tactics to stay longer and made the landlord's life a nightmare.
That sounds exhausting. And it's not just the money and the legal stuff, right? There's the huge cost in time.
Oh, absolutely. Green Residential is really blunt about this. They say the time wasted dealing with a problem tenant can, quote, make your head spin.
I believe it.
Think about it. Hours on the phone, writing emails, drafting and serving official notices, late notices, cure or quit notices.
All the paperwork.
Arguments, prepping for court, actually going to court hearings, a contested eviction. That can drag on for months. Months, taking up so much of your energy and focus.
And that time, you can't get it back.
Exactly. It's a non-renewable resource. Time you could have spent finding better investments or improving your properties or running your business or just having a personal life.
Right. The opportunity cost is massive. Probably something new landlords don't always factor in.
Very often overlooked. And then let's talk damage. Property damage.
Oh.
Bay Management Group, Green Residential, they don't hold back here. They describe severe damage way beyond normal wear and tear.
Like what?
We're talking tenants deliberately damaging the place. Sometimes, like in retaliation if they're being evicted.
Oh, wow.
Examples mentioned. Using sledgehammers on walls, leaving properties filthy, like with bodily fluids on carpets, horrible stuff.
That's awful.
And intentional water damage gets a special mention. It's particularly destructive.
Why water damage specifically?
Well, as one source notes, it could mean flooding units. That doesn't just ruin floors and walls. It can damage the structure, maybe even leak into neighboring units.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like a nightmare to fix.
It's notoriously expensive and complex to fix properly. Often needs huge tear-outs, reconstruction, and it's often deliberate, not accidental. Very costly.
Which I guess leads to another lovely consequence. Retaliation.
Yeah. When a tenant knows they're out, especially if things ended badly or they owe money, they might act out in some really shocking ways.
Like the classic horror stories.
Exactly. The infamous example cited is finding rotting fish deliberately hidden inside the walls. Imagine dealing with that. The smell, the cleanup.
Cool.
Or, picture this. You did everything by the book legally. You used their security deposit correctly to cover actual damages. Maybe the damage even cost more than the deposit.
Right.
And the disgruntled tenant still files a lawsuit against you. Their aim might not even be to win. It might just be to drag you into court, make you hire lawyers, make you pay just for the privilege of having rented to them.
Wow. Okay, so it paints a very clear picture then. The thorough tenant screening isn't just about, maximizing your rent.
No, not at all.
It's fundamentally about huge risk mitigation, protecting your property, your money, your time, your sanity, really, from these potentially devastating outcomes.
Precisely. And understanding those severe potential downsides really highlights why the screening process itself has to be robust, systematic. So how does it actually work in practice?
Right. The workflow.
Our sources lay out a pretty clear path, though the exact steps might vary a bit depending on the service you use.
Okay. So step one.
The very first step, and this is critical stress by Avail, single key, Good Life Property Management, is defining your screening criteria before you even advertise the property.
Before you even list it.
Yes. Set objective standards. What's your absolute minimum credit score? What income level do you require? Often you hear 2 to 3 times the monthly rent. What are your standards for rental history? What background check results are okay? And what's an automatic no?
Got it. Set the rules first.
It's non-negotiable. And legality comes in right away here. These criteria must be legal under fair housing laws. We'll dive deeper into that soon.
Okay.
And crucially, you must apply these criteria consistently to every single applicant. No exceptions. No letting gut feelings override the rules for one person but not another. Consistency is your absolute best friend against discrimination claims.
Okay. Consistency is key. So criteria are set. What's next?
Then you move to collecting detailed rental applications. Places like Avail, Zillow, Apartments.com, they offer templates or digital forms.
Right. The application form itself.
And it's designed to gather all that essential initial info. Current job, previous jobs, income details, rental history where they lived, landlords, dates, who else will live there, pets, cars.
The basics.
And, very importantly, the applicants sign consent to run background and credit checks. You absolutely need that consent to pull the formal reports governed by the FCRA.
Okay, consent is vital for the next step.
And the consent allows you to do the core part, requesting and reviewing formal screening reports from third-party services. This is where the real data verification kicks in.
But before we jump into those specific reports, maybe we should pause and really underline the legal framework here. You mentioned it.
Absolutely vital. You must comply with the Federal Fair Housing Act and the Fair Credit Reporting Act, the FCRA, right from the first interaction with a potential tenant.
These aren't just suggestions, right?
No, they are strict federal laws protecting applicants' rights and ensuring fair practices. And again, consistency in applying your criteria is the absolute foundation of compliance. Ignoring these can lead to serious legal trouble, hefty fines.
Okay, good reminder. So compliance first. Now, about those key reports landlords use, what data are they looking at?
Right. Drawing from all these sources, talking about screening services, there are several core types that keep coming up.
First one that always comes to mind is the credit report.
Probably the most common, yeah. Provided by the big bureaus, TransUnion, Experian, Equifax, pretty much every service we looked at, Avail, Zillow, SmartMove, CheckR offers access to these.
And what does it actually show you besides just the score?
Well, it's a snapshot of their financial life, really. You get the score, of course, but also a detailed history of how they've handled credit cards, loans, things like that.
Payment history.
Yep. Did they pay on time? Any delinquencies, defaults? It shows their total debt load, what kinds of accounts are open, any bankruptcies, and even who's been checking their credit recently.
And the value there is pretty obvious, I guess.
Yeah, sources like Bay Management Group and Good Life Property Management point out it's about assessing financial responsibility, predicting how likely they are to pay your rent on time, every time.
And that low credit score, like below 650 you mentioned.
It's often seen as a big red flag, yeah.
Yeah.
The exact number might vary by market or landlord, but generally below 650 suggests potential trouble meeting financial obligations.
Interesting.
And it's worth noting, some services offer rental-specific scores, like TransUnion's resident score, Apartments.com, Rent Prep, Tenant mention it.
How's that different?
It's supposedly designed with algorithms that weigh factors differently to better predict rental performance, specifically. Maybe things like rental payment history, if it's reported, or how stable their residence has been, count more than in a standard consumer score.
Okay, interesting nuance. So beyond the finances, what about their personal history? Criminal background checks.
Yep, that's the next big one. This searches court records, national, state, local. Services like Avail, Zillow, SmartMove, Rent Prep, Single Key, Checkr handle this. It's about uncovering relevant criminal history.
And what typically shows up?
Usually, felony convictions, relevant misdemeanor convictions. You can also flag active warrants or if someone's on a sex offender registry.
And why do landlords use this? What's the value?
It's about assessing potential risks. Risk to the property, risk to other tenants if it's a multi-unit place, or risk to the community. Good Life Property Management and Checkr mention this. Landlords use it to judge if an applicant's past poses an unacceptable safety or security concern.
And compliance is important here too.
Definitely. Rent Prep, for example, highlights that their checks are FCRA certified and include a manual review step for better accuracy and compliance. You have to handle this information carefully and legally.
Okay, next report. One that seems really directly relevant, eviction history.
Yes, this one gets right to the point. It searches court records specifically for eviction filings and actual judgments. Again, Avail, Zillow, SmartMove, Rent Prep, Single Key, Check, they all offer this.
So it tells you straight up if they've been evicted before, or even just had proceedings started against them.
Exactly. It shows if a previous landlord formally tried to remove them.
And that's seen as a big deal.
A major red flag for many landlords. Sources like Bay Management Group and Single Key are clear on this. A past eviction is often viewed as very strong evidence of potential future non-payment or serious lease problems. It's hard data showing they failed in a past rental situation.
Makes sense. Okay, so we have these reports. What about verifying the info on the application, like income? That seems crucial, but maybe harder?
Absolutely vital, yes. Avail, Hemlane, Rent Ready, Single Key, Lease Runner, Checkr all stress this. You need to confirm they actually earn what they say they earn and can afford the rent based on your criteria, like that 2-3x rule.
How do you do that? What documents do you need?
The most common ones listed are recent pay stubs, usually the last 2 or 3.
Okay.
An employment verification letter directly from their boss is also great evidence. Bank statements can show regular deposits, and tax returns are key, especially for self-employed folks, to see their overall income picture.
And the process is just ask for the docs.
Ask for them, review them carefully, do the numbers match what they claimed, and then ideally follow up directly with the employer. Verify their job status, start date, current pay.
With the applicant's permission, of course.
Always with their signed consent. Lease Runner and Green Residential really emphasize doing that follow-up call or email.
But is it always that simple? I imagine verification can hit snags.
Oh yeah, Lease Runner details some common headaches. Applicants might give you incomplete documents or old ones, so you have to go back and ask again.
Right.
You might find discrepancies. The application says one thing, the pay stub another, the bank statement something else entirely.
What about self-employed people? Their income can be up and down.
Exactly. That's a big challenge. A simple pay stub doesn't work. Tax returns help, but they show last year's income, not necessarily what they're making now.
And privacy concerns too, right? Asking for bank statements feels intrusive.
It can be. Tenants might worry about sharing all their transaction details. Lease Runner suggests strategies.
Yeah.
Be persistent about getting complete info. Ask clarifying questions about discrepancies.
Okay.
For irregular income, ask for a longer history, more bank statements, maybe quarterly tax estimates to see an average. And for privacy, maybe accept redacted statements showing deposits but hiding purchases, or use specialized reports. Yeah, some services like SmartMove, Tenant Cloud, Tenant offer things like income insights. These reports apparently analyze the applicant's credit behavior patterns compared to their stated income.
How does that work?
So if they claim a high income, but their credit report shows they're constantly struggling to pay small bills, the report might flag that as potentially inconsistent. A bit of an analytical check.
Interesting. Okay, another big piece is rental history and references, right? Calling past landlords.
Foundational. You collect previous addresses and landlord contacts on the application.
And then you actually have to call them.
Yes. This is where diligence really counts. Green Residential and Single Key are emphatic. You must contact those references. Don't just trust the application.
Do services help with this?
Some are starting to. Avail apparently has an automated landlord reference check. But for many others, Zillow, Apartments.com, RentPrep, HemLane, DoorLoop, RentReady, Inago, you're likely making those calls or sending emails yourself.
Okay. And any tips for making those calls?
Yes. Crucial advice from Green Residential. Verify the reference is legitimate. Don't just dial the cell number the applicant provided.
Why not?
Because it could be their friend or relative pretending. Try to cross-reference the property address with public records, or look up the management company online and call their official number. Verify you're talking to the actual former landlord or manager.
Smart. Protect against fake references.
Exactly. You want the real story. Did they pay on time, give proper notice, take care of the place? Any complaints? Crucially, would you rent to them again?
That last question is key. Okay, one more verification piece.
Identity verification, just confirming the applicant is who they say they are. Services like SmartMove, RentPrep, Single Key, Checkar usually build this in, often using the social security number to match identity across reports.
Got it. So application, reports run, income verified, references checked. Now you have this big pile of information. What are the specific red flags you should be looking for?
Right. The warning signs. Bay Management Group, Green Residential, Single Key, they highlight several based on experience.
We touched on poor credit already.
Yes, high on the list. That score below 650 is a common benchmark for concern. It suggests past struggles with debt or bills, raising questions about rent reliability.
Makes sense. What else?
Inconsistent or unverifiable income. If they claim they make plenty, but the documents are sketchy or the numbers just don't add up after you check,
Big red flag.
huge risks they can't actually afford the lease. That 2-3x rent requirement isn't just arbitrary. It's meant to ensure they have a cushion for rent and other life expenses.
Prior evictions. You said that was a major one.
Often considered a deal breaker, yeah. Bay Management Group, Single Key, Good Life Property Management list it prominently. An eviction on their record is hard evidence of a past failure to pay or a serious lease violation.
Okay. What about criminal records?
That can be a red flag too, but it depends on the specifics. What was the crime? How long ago? Landlords need to assess if it poses a genuine risk to the property or community. And there are legal rules about how you use this info, particularly around relevance and timeframes.
Right. Legal compliance again? What about references?
Bad references are critical. If a real previous landlord gives you negative feedback, always late with rent, damage the property, constant neighbor issues, listen carefully.
And fake references.
If you even suspect a reference is fake, that's a massive red flag about honesty right there. Green Residential, Bay Management, Single Key all warn about this.
Anything more subtle?
Moving too often can be a sign, according to Bay Management Group. If someone hops properties every 6 or 12 months without a clear reason like a job transfer, it might suggest instability or a pattern of minor issues that made them leave before a formal eviction.
Okay. Any other little things?
Yeah, a few others mentioned. Seeming unable to easily pay the first month's rent or deposit hints at poor financial planning. Asking weird pre-screening questions that test your rules, like pushing about pets if the ad says no pets, or not listing all the adults who plan to live there on the application. Green Residential flagged that one.
So lots to look for.
And Good Life Property Management adds that vital reminder. Have your standards defined beforehand and stick to them consistently. For everyone. It avoids bias and makes spotting real red flags based on your criteria much easier, rather than just relying on a gut feeling.
Okay, let's circle back to that legal foundation. It sounds like getting this wrong is easy and potentially very costly.
Extremely costly. You absolutely have to navigate this correctly.
The big one is the Fair Housing Act, right? The
Act, the most critical federal law, yes. It explicitly prohibits housing discrimination based on 7 protected classes. Race, color, religion, sex, which now often includes gender identity and sexual orientation through interpretation in state law, national origin, familial status, and disability.
So you absolutely cannot refuse someone for belonging to one of those groups.
Correct. Or set different terms, like charging a higher rent or deposit. Familial status, for instance, means you generally can't turn away families just because they have kids under 18. Single Key, Green Residential, Bay Management Group all emphasize this.
But you said federal isn't the end of it. State and local laws matter too.
Hugely important. State and local governments often add more protected classes. Single Key and Green Residential point this out. Things like sexual orientation, gender identity, marital status, age.
Source of income. I hear that one a lot.
Yes, critically important in many places now. It means you might be legally required to consider applicants using housing vouchers, like Section 8, and can't just have a blanket no vouchers policy. Good Life Property Management even mentioned California protecting hair texture.
Wow. So you have to know the rules in your specific city and state.
Absolutely. They might be much broader than the federal list.
And the other big federal law was the FCRA, Fair Credit Reporting Act.
Right. That governs how consumer reports like credit and background checks are collected, shared, and used.
Yeah.
Check Array, Good Life Property Management, Single Key all mention FCRA compliance.
And landlords have specific duties under FCRA.
Yes. A key one is the adverse action notice. If you deny an applicant based even partly on information in a screening report,
You have to tell them.
you must tell them in writing. The notice has to say the denial was based on the report, give the name and contact info of the agency that supplied the report, and tell the applicant they have the right to dispute the info's accuracy and get a free copy of their report within 60 days.
That's a strict requirement, no wiggle room.
Non-negotiable under FCRA if the report influenced your decision.
Okay, so navigating this, pre-screening questions seem like a minefield. What can you ask?
Single Key gives good examples. You can ask about things directly relevant to the tenancy. Desired move-in date, preferred lease length, number of occupants, employment status if they have pets, since pets aren't federally protected, though check local rules. And definitely ask for consent for checks and references.
Makes sense. Things related to the lease.
Exactly. But you must avoid questions touching on protected classes, or they could seem discriminatory. Single Key warns. Don't ask about race, sexual orientation, national origin, disability status. You can discuss reasonable accommodations if they bring it up, but don't ask if they have a disability. Even asking their first language could be problematic. Stick to qualifications for the rental, not personal characteristics.
So the safest bet.
Treat everyone the same. Apply your objective, preset criteria consistently. That's the message from Single Key and Bay Management Group. And document everything, as Good Life Property Management advises. Keep records of applications, reports, your decisions for every applicant. That's your proof of a fair process.
What about common scenarios? Like, can you charge families with kids a higher deposit?
Generally, no. Single Key and Good Life say that would likely violate familial status protections.
Pet deposit or pet rent?
Generally, yes. Federally, pets aren't protected. But again, double-check local ordinances. Some cities do have specific pet rules now.
It's complex. And you mentioned the tenant perspective earlier from that Reddit source. There are concerns about fairness.
Right. It's important to acknowledge that while landlords need to screen, some tenants feel these processes, especially with certain scoring systems or old data, can create unfair barriers. They worry about being systematically blocked from housing based on things they can't control or fully understand.
Which is a good transition to the tools themselves. Landlords don't have to be detectives or lawyers, right? Services help.
Exactly. Tenant screening services exist for this reason. Avail and Checkar explain these companies specialize in providing the reports, credit, background, eviction, often packaged conveniently and crucially in an FCRA-compliant way.
And there are lots of options out there.
A whole market. The sources mentioned a bunch. Avail, Zillow Rental Manager, Apartments.com Rental Manager, Smart Move, Rent Prep, Tenant Cloud, Hemlane, Door Loop, Rent Ready, Rent Spree, Turbo Tenant, Inago, Single Key, Lease Runner, eRenter, Checkr. Quite a list.
How do they differ?
Features, price, delivery. Some, like Avail, Zillow, Apartments.com, Tenant Cloud, and many others, are part of bigger property management platforms. So you get screening plus listing, rent collection, everything integrated.
Okay.
Others might be more focused just on screening. Smart Move often gets mentioned for its applicant pays model, where the tenant buys and shares the report. Feels more private to some tenants.
Rent Prep.
Noted for those manually reviewed, FCRA-certified background checks, focusing maybe more on accuracy.
Any other features?
Some offer automated scores or recommendations based on your criteria, like Hemlane mentioned. Most help with income verification somehow, from basic document uploads to those specialized income insights reports we talked about.
And verifying references, automated or manual?
Varies. Avail has that automated system. Many others, like Zillow, Apartments.com, Rent Prep, still rely on the landlord making the calls.
So choosing a service depends on your needs.
Totally.
Yeah.
How many properties?
Yeah.
Your budget. Do you want an all-in-one platform or just screening? Which reports matters most? Avail, for example, positioned itself as good for small landlords. You have to shop around.
Okay. Now let's go back to that tenant perspective you brought up from the Reddit source. The idea of tenant scores or shadow credit scores. What's that about?
Yeah, it's an interesting and concerning point raised by tenants. They're describing scores that aren't your standard FICO or Vantage Score credit score,
Okay.
but separate scores generated by some of these screening companies using their own secret formulas based on all sorts of personal data they collect.
And tenants are being denied based on these scores.
That's what they report, being denied housing or told they need a much higher deposit, specifically because of a low score from a tenant screening company, even if their regular credit score seems fine or they feel financially stable.
And the big issue is transparency.
Huge issue. They describe the algorithms as secret. Tenants say they struggle to even find out what their score is, let alone how it was calculated. It feels like a black box.
And the report content itself worries them.
Yes. They mention these reports can contain incredibly detailed info order, old late fees, even if paid off, every address they've ever lived at, maybe even how much rent they paid, potentially info linked to past roommates.
Wow, that's a lot of detail.
Yet, tenants feel uncomfortable with that level of personal history being shared with every potential landlord.
They also felt screening was less regulated than credit reporting.
That was a strong sentiment. A concern that there are fewer consumer protections, less oversight compared to the credit bureaus. And this lack of regulation combined with the opaque scoring could lead to really unfair outcomes that seriously impact their ability to find a home.
And getting access to their own files is hard.
Another challenge mentioned, difficulty requesting their information, sometimes being asked for really sensitive documents like a copy of their actual Social Security card just to see their own file.
That seems excessive.
It does. They also talked about how past problems, maybe things totally outside their control or from years ago, can haunt them in these scores.
Like what?
Like identity theft fallout, financial hardship from a serious illness or job loss, even just having lived at an address where other tenants caused trouble, potentially flagging them as associated with a bad address in the system.
So things that weren't really their fault could still hurt them.
That's the concern. It creates barriers for people trying to get back on their feet.
And that thin file problem, too.
Yeah, the paradox where someone who's been super careful, avoided debt, paid cash for everything, might actually get a poor tenant score because there's not enough data for the algorithm to assess them positively. No credit history, maybe no reported rental payment history.
It makes them look risky, even if they're not.
Potentially, yes. And then there was a brief mention of private, informal tenant blacklists some landlords might share. Another layer of opacity.
So yeah, that Reddit source definitely paints a picture of the anxieties and challenges applicants face from their side of the screening table.
It's a crucial perspective to consider alongside the landlord's need for risk management. Okay, shifting gears slightly, a very practical question landlords face. Do I do all the screening myself or hire a property manager?
The DIY versus pro question. Green Residential and Bay Management Group had thoughts on this.
They did. Factors favoring self-management. Living super close, like maybe in an ADU on the same lot, makes handling things easier.
Or having lots of free time.
Yeah, if you're retired, have a very flexible job, you might have the bandwidth for the screening, the calls, the management. A strong legal background is a big plus, given all the laws we just talked about.
Yeah.
And maybe a really high emotional connection to the property, wanting that deep personal involvement. Green Residential listed these kinds of points.
Okay, but there are strong arguments for hiring a pro manager too, right?
Definitely. Primarily time and expertise.
Yeah.
Just the sheer hours needed for proper screening, dealing with tenant issues, late pay, complaints, repairs, coordinating maintenance. It's a lot.
A manager takes that off your plate.
Acts as a buffer, handles the day-to-day, frees up your time massively.
And the legal complexity.
That's a huge reason people hire managers.
Yeah.
Laws change. Federal, state, local. Good managers stay current, make sure everything from screening to leases to handling deposits and evictions, it's compliant. It seriously reduces your risk of making a costly legal mistake. Green Residential and Bay Management really stress this.
Plus, they just know what they're doing.
They bring experience. Established processes for screening, spotting red flags, verifying info. They often have access to better screening tools, too. Bay Management and Good Life highlight that professional edge.
What about repairs?
Managers usually have a network of reliable contractors. plumbers, electricians, etc. They can often get repairs done faster, maybe cheaper, than you scrambling to find someone trustworthy. That means happier tenants, less vacancy time. Green Residential noted that.
Market knowledge, too, setting the right rent.
Yep. Managers know the local market, what rents are achievable. Good Life mentioned that self-managers sometimes undercharge out of convenience or reluctance to raise rent, leaving money on the table. A manager helps optimize income and reduce vacancy.
And taxes. Anything there?
Green Residential briefly mentioned it. How rental income and expenses are treated can differ if you're actively managing versus having it be passive income via a manager.
Yeah.
Best to talk to a tax pro about your specific situation, always.
So self-manage or hire out. It really boils down to a personal calculation. Your time, your expertise, your comfort level with the responsibilities, how hands-on you want to be.
Exactly. It's a cost-benefit analysis. And speaking of mindset, Green Residential had this really interesting point they called the landlord mindset.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Simple but powerful. View the tenant as your customer.
Your customer. How does it play out?
It doesn't mean being a pushover or ignoring the lease. It's about the dynamic. Treat tenants respectfully, professionally, respond promptly to issues.
And they're more likely to be good tenants.
Exactly. More likely to take care of the place, pay on time, stay longer, which saves you turnover cost, and just generally build a positive relationship.
As opposed to seeing it as a fight from day one.
Right. An adversarial mindset, where you assume conflict, tends to create conflict, increase turnover, and cause headaches for everyone. Framing them as a customer whose satisfaction, within reason, helps your business is presented as key to long-term success as a landlord.
Interesting perspective. Okay, let's wrap this up with a few practical takeaways. How long does screening actually take, start to finish?
Good question. Based on sources like Good Life Property Management and CheckAC, the electronic BITS credit, background, eviction checks can come back fast, sometimes just hours for initial results.
But that's not the whole story.
No. The parts that often take longer are the manual checks, verifying employment with the employer, checking income docs, and especially waiting for previous landlords to call you back for references.
Depends on how responsive people are.
Exactly. So while the reports might be quick, a full, comprehensive screening with all the verification steps usually takes somewhere between, say, 2 to 5 business days on average. Could be faster, could be slower if you hit delays.
Okay, 2 to 5 days is a reasonable expectation. And can tenants screen themselves? Can they run their own reports?
Surprisingly, yes. Avail and CheckAC confirm this. Applicants can often pay for and run their own credit, background, and eviction reports.
Why would they do that?
Well, they can see what landlords will see before applying. Lets them check for errors or just understand their own report. Plus, they can give these reports directly to landlords, potentially speeding things up, especially if they're applying to multiple places.
Some platforms help with that.
Yeah, Avail was mentioned as having a reusable renter profile feature that bundles their info and reports. Makes it easier to share.
So bottom line, across all these sources, what's the main message?
Thorough tenant screening isn't just a nice to have. It's presented as absolutely critical, foundational for anyone renting out property. Avail and Lease Runner really emphasize its value for making informed choices and protecting your investment by finding those reliable renters.
That upfront effort really pays off.
Getting the right info up front is powerful. Yes, it takes some effort, maybe a small cost for the reports, but weigh that against the potential nightmare costs of a bad tenant, lost rent, damage, legal fees, time, stress. The investment in good screening seems pretty small in comparison, many times over.
It moves you from guessing to knowing based on actual data.
Exactly. From hopeful guesswork to informed decisions.
Okay, so thinking about all this.
Right.
What's the final takeaway for someone listening, maybe a landlord or a potential landlord?
Well, it seems clear landlords absolutely need to mitigate risk, right? The potential downsides we discussed are very real, very serious. The sources back that up strongly.
Right.
But that tenant perspective also raises important questions about how screening is done, the transparency, how much weight past issues or opaque scores carry. It touches on fairness and access to housing.
So there's a balance to be struck.
That seems to be the crux of it. How do you implement a screening process that's robust enough to protect your investment and give you peace of mind, but is also fair, totally legal, and considers the real impact on applicants who might be dealing with complex data systems or trying to overcome past challenges?
It's not just about getting the data, but how you use it.
Precisely. The upfront effort to get detailed, verified info is essential. but how you use it with transparency, consistency, and within the bounds of the law that shapes not just your own success, but potentially helps create more positive, stable rental situations for everyone involved.
A lot to think about there. A complex but really vital part of being a landlord.
Indeed it is.
Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into these sources. It's been really insightful.